The Los Angeles Chargers have a stacked roster. Both the offense and the defensive talents rank inside the top 10, and with a strong offseason, it seems as the team should be back in playoff contention. Yet, the coaching is something I believe is heavily holding this team back. I'm Chase Keller, and tune into this dive of the Los Angeles Chargers, why I believe they will finish 10-7 and how they came up in 14th in my 2023 NFL Power Rankings. The Chargers offense has consistently been one of the best since the selection of Justin Herbert in the 2020 NFL Draft. I have always had my concerns about this offense, but there's no denying that behind one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, potential is through the roof. So, let's discuss this offense. Let's talk about Herbert first. He's been getting a lot of disrespect due to the Herbert versus Burrow debate, but we need to recognize that yes, while Burrow is a better quarterback, Herbert is still a fantastic passer. I think the biggest takeaway from his game is that he is a reliable and smart passer that always does what he needs to do. He attempted 699 passes last season, which was second to Tom Brady's record-breaking 733. With that being said, he was also down in 22nd for turnover-worthy plays. So yes, Herbert is a smart passer who has increased in pass attempts every year of his career, but it's not always sunshine and rainbows here. Herbert's 2022 campaign was clearly his worst, seeing career lows in touchdowns, big-time throws, and NFL passer rating, and career highs in sacks taken and batted throws. And even though his 2022 campaign was his worst, it wasn't bad at all. In fact, it's probably a great season for a majority of NFL quarterbacks. And it's no secret that the targets Herbert has are phenomenal. Starting here with the running back room, there's a chance for a big change, but if it stays as is, it's a very solid one. The running back room itself may be above average, but Austin Eckler is much more than that. Eckler is the best receiving back in the NFL, and along with underrated rushing abilities, he's a superstar running back. Eckler had the most rushing yards of his career in a single season last year with only 950. Yet we often forget that while he has yet to surpass 1,000 yards, he had 15 rushing touchdowns last year. That includes having 20 total touchdowns the last 2 seasons. It seems as if Eckler is evolving into a prime dual threat, and if he sticks with LA for 2023, he has the upside to finally reach that 1,000 rushing yard mark. The backup running backs aren't terrible, but if Eckler goes down, the Chargers should be concerned. I was never a fan of Joshua Kelly, but last season proved me wrong, and he should be a decent option off the bench. As for Isaiah Spiller, he was a guy I liked in the mid-4th round last draft, but in 2022 he played like a cut candidate, seeing 18 rushes for 41 yards with a long run of 11 yards. In the same game where he had an 11-yard carry, the rest of the game saw 3 rushes for 0 yards. How about this wide receiver core? They took the same route as Seattle and just bolstered an already proven wide receiver core, and personally, I have no issue with that at all. Obviously, this team's going to run a 3 wide receiver lineup per usual, and with their scheme and personnel, they built this core perfectly. Starting in the slot, Keenan Allen is still great, and you can't tell me different. Allen appeared in only 10 regular season games last season, and in those games, he played like a competitor for the best slot receiver in the league despite injury. Allen saw 85 targets for 66 receptions and 776 yards last season. In a full 17-game season, that's 112 receptions for 1,319 receiving yards. Allen is an inconsistent hands guy, but last season, he had 0 drops on 85 targets. From 2018 to 2020, he dropped 11 passes on 422 targets, which is 1 drop every 38.4. I don't know about you, but that's pretty damn good. On the outside, you have Mike Williams, who while inconsistent, can be a very good wide receiver too at times. He also dealt with injuries last season, but just like his teammate, he was productive when he played. He also gave Herbert reliable hands in 2022, dropping 1 pass on 90 targets. And he's a physical specimen, and I loved his college tape. enough for me to give him a first-round grade if I scouted him at that time. That reminds me exactly of their new addition. Quentin Johnston is almost a carbon copy of Mike Williams. I would love to explain how good Johnston is, but I think March CKJ can help me with that. Johnston is the most valuable receiver in this class as he brings the most proven NFL talent to the table, nearly topped by JSN. But there's a massive gap between three-level threats. He is just as effective in every level of receiving, whether it's being relied on to catch and run with screens or short passes, running up the seam from the slot to get a first down quick, or catching a deep ball that gets a clutch touchdown or red zone appearance. He has done them all. He refuses to go down without a fight, and he will show that in the NFL. So overall, this wide receiver core is very dominant, and there's no denying that Herbert has elite surround sound. The tight ends aren't awful, but they lack a top guy in this room. It's built well though, as the top guy is a veteran talent and the next two are young and highly developmental. Gerald Everett leads this group going into his 7th season in the league. He saw the most volume of his career last year, and while I don't think that will increase again, Everett did what he could with the volume in 2022. I understand that he is a tight end and he's not supposed to particularly be as good as a wideout, but he dropped a lot of passes the last 3 seasons. Positively though, Everett went for a first down on more than half of his receptions last year. Behind Everett, Donald Parham actually brings great developmental upside. Despite dealing with a lingering injury last season, he was still the most efficient he's ever been. Hopefully for this upcoming season, he can use his very good pass catching abilities to elevate him to good status. And Trey McKitty was a guy I was high on in the 2021 NFL draft. He's absolutely underperformed these last 2 seasons, but he's still very young and has time to bloom. Yet, that time is running out. This offensive line is just average to me. It's got studs here and there, but some duds lay on this line as well. The studs lay across the left side of this line. Rashawn Slater was a phenomenal pass blocker in 2021, allowing only 4 sacks and 26 pressures as a blindside blocker. We didn't get to see his bloom into 2022 because of a torn bicep tendon that kept him out for a majority of the year. I'm expecting that exact bloom to happen for 2023. And the bloom may not show its salliers overall, but the statistics will show that he went up 13 of the 15 available overall points for me in 1 season. He was also phenomenal as a pass blocker filling in for Slater, and with his size and mobility, he will likely play left or right guard this upcoming season. Because Sallier is still a 70 overall, he receives breakout grade number 1 on this roster. And then there's Corey Linsley, who is turning 32 soon, but he's been absolutely dominating the last few years. He's a great combo blocker, seeing success in both the pass and the run. Last season was his best pass blocking season, as he allowed 0 sacks and 7 pressures. The right side of the line is where it gets a little janky. Zion Johnson disappointed his rookie season, being a very bad pass blocker. His run blocking was decent, but that doesn't make up for it. Johnson obviously has potential, but from what we've seen so far, it's been under average out of him. And Trey Pipkins is just that one hole that every offensive line has. He saw his first full-time season last year, and it wasn't pretty. He's a decent rotational piece, but he's not starting worthy. As for the coaching, Joe Lombardi has disappointed with this offense the last couple of seasons. So with the fantastic hiring of Kellen Moore, this offensive coaching becomes the X factor for this offense. Moore runs the same scheme that Lombardi did, but he's seen much more success as an offensive coordinator. He's a very good passing coach, and he may be that guy to elevate Herbert to superstar level. Moore does struggle with consistency, which isn't great to hear after last season's wildcard performance, but at his peak, he's an elite offensive coordinator. To summarize, this offense has a very high ceiling with Kellen Moore running the show. Being the best part of this team, hopefully Herbert can elevate this team back to the playoffs. So now, let's discuss the defense. This defense has gone under the radar the last couple of seasons due to underwhelming defensive coaching. Anthony Lynn was fired after a bad defensive season, and Brandon Staley has not worked to expectations. Yet, this defensive roster is actually very good, so let's dive into it. This edge group is the NFL's best. There's many other teams to march into this debate, but the first two guys are undebatably the best duo in the league. Joey Bosa kicks it off being one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. His brother may be slightly better, but because of that, I have a feeling that this Bosa brother is becoming underrated. Bosa is not only a guy who can generate pressures, but he can also finish through them. When it comes to hurries versus pressures, he has one of the best hurry rates in the league. Bosa does deal with injuries a bit much, but when he's healthy, he is extremely dominant. And without Bosa, the guy beside him is nearly as elite. Khalil Mack may be 32 years old, but his first season with the Chargers proved that he is not slowing down. Sure, the stat sheet was a little underwhelming this season, but there's one reason why I loved him. With the Bosa injury, Mack proved his versatility. While he played almost all of his snaps off the edge, he still did so much with that. Whether it was rushing the passer, finding his way to the inside of the line, or even dropping back in coverage, Mack was there. So for these reasons, I believe that the duo of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack is the best edge rushing duo in the NFL. We take a massive step back when discussing the interior defensive line. There have been many attempts to recover this group over the last few seasons, but it has not been pretty to see. There's no genuine good starters in this group, and that's exemplified by Austin Johnson being interior defensive lineman number 1. He's had his moments, don't get me wrong, but it's consistently been underwhelming for him after Tennessee spent a second-round pick in 2016. He's a decent pass-rushing defensive lineman, but outside of that, it's a struggle. Recently, he struggled to get tackles, which has taken a hit to his run defense. I have reason to say he's starting to fall off. Sebastian Joseph Day ties him in rating though. He has shown flashes early, but the last 2 seasons have been both inconsistent and underwhelming. Last season, Joseph Day was mediocre at everything, and on film, he's hard to watch. Inconsistent technique, lackluster finishing ability, he's being bullied more than he should be, but I still have hope for him as he's only going into his 5th season. And then we follow with 2 rookies. Undrafted rookie Jared Clark was one of my favorite defensive linemen in this class, enough to be ranked higher than Tuli Tuipulotu. He has an impressive bull rush along with great athleticism for someone who's 6'4", 334 pounds. And yes, Tuli Tuipulotu is here as well. Let me discuss Tuipulotu. From what I've seen from him, he should play on the inside. He seems like he's more of a power rusher, and on college tape he doesn't look fluent enough to be an outside linebacker. From what I've heard about him this offseason, he seems to have unlocked a new level of athleticism and will be playing outside linebacker in the NFL. So he will end up playing there. But from my ratings right now, he's on the inside to manipulate the defensive rating like I do with every team. When it comes to midseason though, I'll flip him the outside linebacker. The inside linebacker group was about to be terrible before someone came in and saved the day. It's been an underwhelming group for years, as I mentioned with the D-line, but this offseason, the Chargers spent a good amount of capital to improve this group. Eric Kendricks kicks this group off, a new Charger as of March 14th. I don't believe that he's a top 12 linebacker like PFF has stated recently, but I do believe he's got upside with LAC. His last 2 seasons have not been great, with his coverage being awful last year. Yet, if he returns to old form, it's going to be deadly. Kendricks in his prime was an elite coverage linebacker, including in 2020 where he drew in only 42 targets. The team also selected Deion Henley in the 3rd round of the 2023 NFL Draft. While I do believe there were better options, including my linebacker 1 and Trenton Simpson going the next pick, Henley is still a high upside selection. While he does have some instinct issues, he does have the versatility to play linebacker, corner, or safety. He's also very athletic and has used that to make some great plays. Then there's Kenneth Murray, who has been a disappointment to say the least. The Chargers trusted him as their number 1 linebacker, and it hasn't worked. I will use PFF as a source here because he had 6 quality games in 44 games in his career. His coverage was better last season, but everything else in his game is either continuing to stay bad or starting to fall down to go too bad. We get a lot brighter here with the cornerback room. This room is a lot better than it gets credit for, and it seems that recency bias is holding this room accountable. What do I mean by that? JC Jackson is still a stud. He's had one very bad season, I'll admit, but we forget how elite he was before he joined the Chargers. With New England, Jackson never allowed a completion percentage higher than 54.7%, never allowed a passer rating higher than 62.7, and in 2021, he had 8 interceptions and 12 pass breakups. If he continues with what he did last season though, it won't be pretty. He allowed a near perfect passer rating and had 1 pass breakup in 244 snaps. If Jackson continues to fall, Asante Samuel Jr. is a growing stud to help fill that void. In over 1,000 snaps last season, Samuel showed phenomenal ball skills and gave everyone a look at how he can become what his father once was. 5 interceptions and 11 pass breakups is great no matter the situation. He did allow 7 touchdowns in 2022, which is something he desperately needs to improve on. And honestly, Samuel is someone I see breaking out next year, and he receives breakout grade number 2. Michael Davis is another good outside corner who is solid for a cornerback 3. He had his best year last season, taking advantage of J.C. Jackson's injury and blooming to 12 pass breakups. And that's not all. He allowed 41 receptions on 80 targets, almost a 50% completion percentage. He's an underrated corner, and that about wraps up why I believe this cornerback room is very bright. And then with the safeties, there's one superstar and that's it. The rest of this room is mediocre, but hey, at least they have a stud in Derwin James. With how I predicted his career path, I thought James was going to be the NFL's best safety, but after early injuries, he hasn't quite reached that point yet. That's not to understate that James is still an elite safety with fantastic coverage instincts and elite hybrid abilities. He can play linebacker, corner, safety, even rush the pass off the edge. So I do think that he will bloom to a 90 overall at least this upcoming season, but he's already broken out. After him, it gets a bit ugly. JT Woods was a guy I had a 4th round grade on last year, and he ended up playing only 30 snaps in 4 games. That's too small of a sample size, so we shall wait to cover him. And I've heard good things about Alohi Gilman this offseason, including one report saying if Alohi Gilman's trajectory continues into 2023, he's going to be a vital part of the Chargers secondary. From what I've seen so far though, he's not starting worthy. And as I discussed earlier, the defensive coaching is the thing holding back this blooming defense. Hopefully this season, head coach Brandon Staley can find a way to make him head coach worthy. Staley runs a Vic Fangio style defense, and he finds a way to make it not work. His defenders struggle to hold off big plays and they constantly choke, which is something Fangio's defense always prevents. Staley also blitzes more than Fangio does, yet his pass rushers always struggle to efficiently and consistently generate pressures. It's just underwhelming to say the least. To summarize, this Chargers defense has the talent, now it just needs the coaching. In a prove it or lose it year for Staley, it's finally time to get this defense back into the top 10. Finally, let's get into the rating splits. Before I end every video, I go through the rating splits for the offense, defense, special teams, coaching, and overall team. If you are interested in how this rating system works, it is in the description below. Let's get started with the offense, which received a 78.57, which is 5th in the NFL, 3rd in the AFC, and 2nd in the AFC West. The defense received a 75.02, which is 8th in the NFL, 5th in the AFC, and 1st in the AFC West. The special teams is a 70.4, which is 24th in the NFL, 11th in the AFC, and 3rd in the AFC West. And the coaching came out at a 75 out of 80, which is tied for 23rd in the NFL, tied for 13th in the AFC, and 3rd in the AFC West. As an overall team, they received a 75.86, which is 2nd in the AFC West, 8th in the AFC, and 14th in the NFL. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I still have 13 more teams to power rank, so you're missing out. Once again, I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and thank you guys so much for choosing this channel as your source of sports coverage. I'll see you guys in the next video.